Jalen Brunson has become the heartbeat of the New York Knicks, but now his rise is being shadowed by questions that could grow into a scandal. From the moment he arrived in New York, his path was surrounded by family ties, front office connections, and decisions that never seemed completely clean. What started as whispers is now shaping into one of the biggest stories the NBA has to deal with. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to break down why Brunson's journey to the Knicks and the choices he's made since are under a microscope. Because if even part of what's being investigated is true, this isn't just about one player. It's about how one contract could change the direction of an entire franchise. To understand why Brunson became such a focal point, you need to look back at the Knicks before he arrived. They were coming off one of the most disappointing stretches in franchise history. A brief playoff appearance in 2021, followed by a collapse in 2022, where Julius Randle regressed. The roster unraveled, and the team didn't even make the play-in. At the same time, the Knicks had gone nearly 20 years without a true point guard. They cycled through Kemba Walker, Derrick Rose's injuries, Alfred Payton, Emmanuel Mudiay, and a long list of stopgaps. Every season ended the same way, with no leader on the floor and no stability. That desperation set the stage for Brunson to become their savior. When Brunson hit free agency in 2022, the Knicks didn't just clear cap space. They made a move that raised eyebrows across the league, hiring his father, Rick Brunson, as an assistant coach weeks before free agency began. On its own, the hire could be explained. Rick had played in the league, coached before, and had ties with Tom Thibodeau. But the deeper you look, the harder it is to ignore the connections. Knicks president Leon Rose is literally Brunson's godfather. Leon's son, Sam Rose, was Brunson's agent at the time. And then Jalen Brunson signed with the Knicks in July. A father on the coaching staff, a godfather running the front office, and a son represented by the president's son. It didn't just look like business, it looked like family business. The NBA noticed these overlaps right away. By December of 2022, the league announced the Knicks had tampered during free agency. The punishment was losing their 2025 second-round pick. On paper, that was an official confirmation that the Knicks crossed the line. But in reality, the penalty was so small, it hardly mattered. For New York, the trade-off was simple. Lose a second-rounder, gain the franchise point guard you've been missing for 2 decades. It showed just how valuable Brunson was. Valuable enough to risk a penalty, valuable enough to ignore appearances of favoritism, valuable enough to bend the rules. Once he arrived, Brunson proved the Knicks' gamble wasn't just worth it, it was transformative. He gave them leadership, composure, and a scoring punch they hadn't seen at the guard spot in years. In the 2023 and 2024 seasons, he elevated New York from a struggling team into a legitimate Eastern Conference contender. But with that success came new scrutiny. The more important Brunson became to the Knicks, the more his contract and his connections mattered. Because his role wasn't just about what he did on the court, it was about what it took to bring him there and what he sacrificed to stay. In July 2024, Brunson signed a 4-year, $156 million extension. At first glance, it looked like another payday for a star who'd earned it. But the truth is, that deal was well below what he could have gotten. If Brunson had waited 1 year, he would have been eligible for a 5-year, $269 million max contract. He gave up $113 million by signing early. That's not just a small discount, that's a once-in-a-generation pay cut. Most players spend their whole careers chasing that kind of money. For Brunson to pass on it willingly raised one huge question. What did he get in return? Not long after Jalen's extension, Rick Brunson was promoted to lead assistant coach. The timing was impossible to miss. One summer, the son signs for less than he's worth. That same summer, the father takes a step up on the Knicks bench. The NBA immediately opened an investigation into whether Rick's promotion was a form of hidden compensation. The Knicks pushed back hard, calling the probe offensive, and insisting Rick's pay matched the man he replaced. The league eventually dropped the case, but the suspicion didn't disappear. To many, it looked like another piece in a larger puzzle. Right after his discounted extension, Brunson's endorsement portfolio exploded. Within months, he became the face of Body Armor in Queens, a company that had never really tapped into New York athletes before. Soon after came partnerships with Nike, Delta, Dunkin' Donuts, and several other household names. These weren't fringe brands looking to make noise. These were major corporations, and Brunson was suddenly everywhere. On one level, it all made sense. Brunson had just transformed the Knicks into contenders, and New York is the biggest media market in the league. A point guard leading Madison Square Garden back to relevance was bound to attract attention from advertisers. For the first time in his career, Brunson wasn't just a basketball star. He was a marketable icon. For Jalen Brunson, The heart of this story is perception. On the surface, he looks like the rare modern superstar, willing to put team over money. By signing for less, he allowed the Knicks to keep building around him. That sacrifice gave the front office the flexibility to re-sign OG Anunoby, trade for Karl Anthony Towns, and bring in Mikal Bridges. Fans see it as the ultimate act of loyalty, proof that Brunson cares more about winning in New York than chasing every dollar. But that same decision is also what makes people suspicious. Walking away from $113 million isn't just unusual, it's almost unthinkable in today's NBA. Players rarely give discounts that large without some form of reassurance, whether it's through family benefits, future promises, or hidden arrangements. So while Knicks fans view Brunson as a hero, critics question whether the move was as pure as it looked, and the stakes are massive. If Brunson truly took less because he loves New York and wants to cement his legacy, then he's already become one of the most important players in Knicks history. But if investigations prove that his sacrifice was covered by backdoor deals through his father's promotion or well-timed endorsements, then it's not just about him anymore. It becomes a story about how the Knicks bent the system to keep their star and how the league let them get away with it. For the NBA, Jalen Brunson's situation is a powder keg. The league has already investigated the Knicks twice, once for tampering during his free agency, and again after his father's promotion. Both times, the punishments were light. A lost second-round pick here, a closed case there. On the surface, it looked like the league was keeping order. In reality, it sent a very different message. The NBA wasn't willing to dig too deep into one of its most high-profile franchises. That hesitation creates a dangerous precedent. If the league lets Brunson's contract slide without real scrutiny, it signals to every team that bending the rules is worth the risk. Hire family members, push endorsements, promise benefits off the books. As long as the paper trail isn't obvious, the punishment won't be enough to matter. It's the kind of quiet corruption that erodes competitive balance while giving fans the sense that the system is rigged. The NBA also faces a public relations nightmare. Brunson isn't just any player. He's the face of the Knicks, the most watched team in the league's biggest market. Taking a hard line against him would be like poking a hole in the league's golden balloon. But doing nothing comes with its own cost. Every rival owner, every rival GM, and every rival fan base is watching closely. If they feel New York is being protected, it fuels resentment and undermines trust in the league's integrity. Jalen Brunson's story is one of the most fascinating in basketball. He went from being overlooked as a second-round pick in Dallas to becoming the face of the Knicks in the league's biggest market. In just a few years, he's turned Madison Square Garden into a stage for clutch performances and fearless leadership. He's been everything New York hoped for: tough, reliable, and unshakable when the lights are brightest. But greatness on the court doesn't erase the shadows off it. Now, his legacy depends on what comes next. If his discounts were clean, Brunson will be remembered as the rare star who sacrificed money for winning, a leader who chose team success over personal wealth. But if the investigations prove otherwise, his name could be tied to one of the biggest scandals the NBA has ever faced. And for a player who built his career on trust, toughness, and loyalty, that would be the cruelest twist of all. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. Until next time, thanks for watching.